I'm an engineer by schooling, right? Because I did the American dream. You go to school, get a good job, work your ass off all your life, retire when you're 65. Like that was what we were told. This is how it's done. A half finished bridge does not get you across the river. Like this episode. Say we record it or say we do all this stuff, but you never post it. You didn't cross the river, right? You never finish the objective that you're doing.
He's always talking about people getting LLCs, get your LLC, get your business started, be an entrepreneur. But nobody tells you that, or a lot of people don't tell you that you actually end up being an employee and just getting an extra job.
I got to a point where I finally was making it, right? I was making, my marketing budget, I think got up to like $20,000 a month. I got into pay-per-clicks and different, and I was working on rehabs and I was just like, yes, I made it. My website went live, like I had the business card. I looked awesome. And then my dad got pancreatic cancer.
If you've ever wondered how people are buying distressed houses ethically and how they turn rough properties into safe homes and thriving neighborhoods, today is for you. We're talking deal flow, rehabs, local teams, funding, mistakes, and the mindsets needed to stay in the game. Welcome to the Dream Start Home podcast. I'm your host, Edgar the Connector, and today we have Kevin Dairaghi.
Kevin, great job, Edgar. You nailed the last name. I was kind of rooting for you. So good.
Right, thank you. Oh, no worries. So Kevin is the owner of RestoreSTL, as in St. Louis, buying distressed houses, renovating them, and focusing on restoring neighborhoods. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thank you, Edgar. Great to be here.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to this. We haven't met before, so this is all introduction going.
Brand new.
I'm gonna be learning as the audience is learning. Where are you coming from today?
St. Louis, Missouri. Here's our so I, like you, have a little studio. So we are in our little studio down here in our I call it the bunker room, but yeah, it's where we do our recording. So kind of fitting.
Fantastic. And your podcast is the Kevin Dairaghi Show?
Nailed it. Yeah. I actually hired a team of 5 people, and that's the name they came up with. I'm like, I probably could have done this myself, but here we are.
Right. Yeah, I thought about it too, but I was like, if I want to step away from it or something happens, it can hopefully continue going. So Dream Start On has to do with many people having a dream, but a lot of people don't ever start that dream. So it's the second part to start. And then being in the Pace Morby, shout out to him and his mastermind. He's always talking about people getting LLCs, get your LLC, get your business started, be an entrepreneur. But nobody tells you that, or a lot of people don't tell you that you actually end up being an employee and just getting an extra job. So the own part is to be an owner and starting to hire people the way you did, to be able to delegate that work, to free up your time to do what your superpower is.
Good for you. So we had an episode called Eads Bridge. And because I speak at conferences and stuff like that too. But Eads Bridge is the bridge that connects East and West here in St. Louis, right? Named after James Ead. But it was like post-Civil War kind of era. So 19 or 18, like 70s, 78, I guess. But they ended up making a bridge, like the first real bridge to cross the East and West. And the Mississippi River is a really big river. I know you're in Texas, so you don't necessarily know what we're doing up here. But it's over a mile long. It had to be so tall so steamships could get going. And there's like a bunch of sand on the bottom and all this stuff, right? But it was actually a vision. So you talked about having a vision. So like having a dream or a vision, connecting East and West. So having that, where are we going? Why are we doing this stuff is huge, right? We got to have a passion to drive something bigger, I think. And for me, it's restoring neighborhoods, which means home ownership, right? That's part of my passion. But then using the storyline at that time, the building materials was wood, stone, and iron, and those materials just weren't strong enough to cross the Mississippi. What needed to happen was iron needed to be forged into steel, and the way you do that is heat, like pressure for us in entrepreneur terms, right? We need to have some character building moments, right? Where you have a house under contract, but you don't have all the money. So you have that pit in the stomach. So you have to make certain phone calls or make it happen or just do it, right? That whole part is that forging process. You got to take out the bad habits or impurities, like that's in iron. But then it's putting in the good additives or healthy habits. And then, going through and doing this process. And once you become steel, then you were able to build the bridge, right? You're able to cross east versus west. And then the last part there, because I think everything should have 3 points. So it's dream, forge, finish. A half finished bridge does not get you across the river. So like if you're building out, so like this episode, so say we record it or say we do all this stuff, but you never post it, then you didn't cross the river, right? You never finished the objective that you're doing. Since you like subject twos, I was on I think it's Jeff Kaufman is his name, but he does, I think the Sub 2 Empire, I think is his. But he talked about, he built out this platform for his ads, all this stuff, but he never hit go live. And it's like, dude, that's a half finished bridge. You're not going to get anybody to sell you a house if you don't hit go. If you don't finish that bridge, everything didn't do anything for you. It's just, feels good, I guess.
Yeah, no, very insightful. A lot of people do the perfectionist, right? They want to do it, they get everything ready, and they stop at that 80% and never get past it. So we're big on the podcast talking about progress over perfection.
I believe you're a perfectionist, aren't you?
Yeah, I was trying to fight off of it. That's one reason I don't do fix and flips, as we were talking before a little bit, because I think I would really push the construction timing to a lot longer and extend it and kill my budget.
So there's times and places for what you're saying, right? So for me, I believe in affordable housing. In St. Louis, I don't know where, you're in Texas, you guys probably have way different metrics than we do, but affordable housing in St. Louis is like 300 and under. Like those are some nice houses, but they're not the crazy $500,000, $1 million homes that are also here too. In those areas, it's okay if you have a couple pieces of trim that don't quite line up, or, like there's a certain quality level that it's like, okay, this is rental quality, but you're giving me an opportunity to be a homeowner. I'm fine. It's supposed to be a perfect 45 or a perfect 90-degree angle. You put caulk there. It's okay. Like there's that balance. Because I teach and train some people how to do it. But as a flipper, you also need to know when to stop. Because everything in houses, this, everything touches the next thing. At a certain point, you got to go, all right, if I keep going, I'm not going to make any money. And that's where you got to teach yourself, okay, my comps show as long as I have this level of finish, I'm okay. Like I'm a big fan. You can't lie, right? You could never lie, but you fix everything, you show everything, you disclose whatever needs to be disclosed. But it's like, okay, if not all of this is perfect 100%, okay. What you're also doing it for us is you're selling the dream. What's more important is the location and the chance that this person is able to become a homeowner, and they want to, do a little, what do you call that? Elbow grease. They want to get a little bit of their own home ownership hoorah in there. So I think people are happy to do a little bit of that too.
Yeah, that's when the labor of love comes in, right?
So got to give them a little something, some low-hanging fruits there.
Yeah, definitely. I understand. I'll get to it eventually, I think. I don't know. We'll see. If I need to get down that point, or if I get just a heck of a deal and I was like, you know what, I want to do this. But yeah, definitely there's people, everybody's got their lane, and I'm that's not my lane, but that's your lane, and you seem to be doing really well with it. When you're ready to finance your next property, if it's going to be through hard money lending, if you need a construction loan, a BRRRR method, conventional loan, hey, check out my link below for Deal Funding 360. Julian and his team have been doing it for over 20 years, and they're super knowledgeable. They're going to give you all the tips and tricks. And don't just use them by themselves. Make sure that you use multiple options. I like to put them against each other and see which one gives me the best rate. They'll start dropping off themselves saying they can't match that rate. Hopefully get the best deal that way. Make sure you use the link below and tell them I sent you. But before we get too deep, what's one thing you're excited about right now?
I would have to say my team. I know you don't really know my storyline quite yet, but along with it is right now I'm getting into the space where you ever know when all the pieces are coming together? You know what I mean? Like I've been doing this for what, 10, 20 years. Like I've been doing some aspects of all of this, but I now have a team that's coming together where just wonderful things are coming out, right? The guy who actually produces our podcast came in house. So he's helping us turn around and finish out some of our products and basically getting me hooked up with you. Like that's something that he did for us, and starting up all of our socials. So we have more conversations with our audiences, right? And then I'm starting to do more speaking events and all these things that I love because I have some people helping. I have one guy helping me. Like, how are you with all the tech side, Edgar?
Oh, I'm great with tech, but I spend too much time on it.
Damn it.
Another thing is perfectionist. Cable managing.
Have you started using AI integrations in what you're doing?
Yes.
So
a little bit, yeah.
Maybe it's the age difference we have here between us, but like I could flip a house. I know how to swing a hammer. I could do all these different sides of it, right? But putting me behind a computer, making me just do Excel sheets or, just playing with code is kind of where I'm like, that's ineffective. Having me do tax forms at the end of the year, that's not where I need to be. Let me be the connector. But I'm using your word. How can I go out there and connect the dots so all these other things happen? So I got one guy helping me with the social and getting the message out there, and another guy is integrating all these, just amazing ways of chopping all these numbers so we could come back and save our time on the back end reviewing every deal. It's pretty awesome to see what really could happen. So that's what I'm most excited for. So
that's fantastic. You get into that point, or you're at that point of the own part from Dream Start On, which is where we're trying to get everybody at that's an entrepreneur and not just having that extra job there. So that's great. Good for you.
We're scaling up. By the end of Q1, we expect to be doing about 8 acquisitions a month, like for our own flips. So in my heyday, I was doing about 10 rehabs a month, but then I got burned out and it didn't work for me. But now I'm doing it with a team and people, and it's really one of those cool things that we're able to kind of grow. And man, it kind of reminds me of the starfish theory. Do you know the starfish theory?
About throwing them back into the ocean?
Yeah. So if I'm making 8 new homeowners a month, is that a big deal for the, of America? No, 8 homeowners isn't a big deal, but it is to those 8. We gave them a clean, safe place to live. St. Louis is a great place to invest in, right? So we have a lot of outside investors coming in and buying, which I totally support. I don't like it when hedge funds come in or corporations and buy up our neighborhoods, because they don't care. They usually put in the cheapest property managers and just kind of whoever could fit the bill. And if I could go into some of those neighborhoods and create homeowners, right? Well, to me, that's kind of, I don't know how you grew up but it was one of those, we had the call it the salty seniors, like, get off my lawn, kid. But that's kind of what home ownership is, right? You kind of respect different areas. Once you pay for it and take care of it, you're going to appreciate yours and other people's stuff a little bit better. So if we're able to give people that dream, they could actually grow and kind of take back some of kind of that excitement, right, of your own stuff. So, and building generational wealth and all these other things. We just had, so I do have rentals and properties like that, but I just sold one of our rentals to the tenant, and she told me, Julie, that she is the first person in her family to own a house. So like mom, grandma, dad, brothers, all the family, I think even cousins, to actually own a house. And it's like, man, I have my fingerprints a little bit in that transformation. So then when they start growing and doing the next one, hopefully, who do you think they come to? Like I want to be able to show the next person, hey, here's the steps to become a homeowner. What kind of education can I give you to become one of us, right?
Reaching out to Kevin, 100%. That's amazing that they're able to get that step and they feel so proud of it. And like you mentioned, you're not changing the world, but you're changing that one person's world, which is huge because she or that person can change somebody else's world, so it'll just continue to grow. And it's amazing to be able to help out people that way.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I've been able to align my mission and my passion and kind of my all these fields, like really are just lining up. Are you a reader? Like, do you read like Simon Sinek, The Start with Why, or any of those books?
I'm reading some more. I haven't read that one yet. From Good to Great, I've read Buy Back Your Time. Those are my most recent reads.
So this was, man, he wrote this one years back, but it was kind of like finding your purpose. So like when I sell, or basically when I'm buying a house, I lead because I don't want to be a sleazy guy, right? Because most of my lead gen honestly comes from referrals, right? It's word of mouth. Oh, hey, call Kevin. It's actually one of the reasons I became an agent is, hey, here's the path. I call it the hallway. Here's your choices. I can help you now with all of these different things. It's however you want to proceed. You have time, energy, money. How much do you want to push and pull to get where you want? And then I have options for you to do each and any of those. And some are the subject to options, and we call it a creative financing, right? But it's like, it's almost a partnership between you and I. And then when I lay out this, I'm not coming in as a sleazy guy going, oh, how about $50 more? How about this? Like there's not a lot of negotiation. It's here's your options. I could help you here. This is what it looks like. Which one works best for you? And I just find the more I educate, the more I actually help and teach them. So then whether or not I buy that house from that person, I become the person that's referred out to the other people. Like I am primarily a referral based business. So how cool is that?
Yeah, fantastic. Word of mouth referrals are the best ways to do it. They're going to have more trust already, and they're not going to be the guards won't be as high up. They'll be a lot better. So when you're providing good service, you'll be able to get those referrals. Fantastic.
Do you do much outbound marketing?
No, not so much. Being part of the community, the Sub2 community, and being part of Pace Morby's mastermind, he actually does a lot of marketing for us and sends us people to get us leads, which is awesome. Super privileged to be able to be in that room and that community, and being able to have those opportunities that I wouldn't be able to get unless I was spending a lot of money in marketing, a lot of time doing that.
Oh yeah, it's a whole job. I think people don't know how much work wholesaling is. Like wholesaling itself is a job. That's why, because you're like, why are you selling off your deal? It's like, well, the whole next part, like the construction and agent, all that, that's another job that way. Like, how about the ones I found that are successful stay in their lane? Because they have so much. I think the longest one I saw was about, I think, 8 years from first contact to close. And it's like, damn.
Wow.
Think about you check in somebody, once a month for 8 years? That's a process. Kind of want that one to cash out.
That's a difference maker between the successful people and the not successful people in that industry, or in many industries. Being consistent and persistent with your follow-ups, big time, game changing if you can do that.
What I was going to say on that, so one of the ways I used to market was to like probate houses. Somebody dies, we'll market to the power of attorney, all that stuff. And I remember I walked in through a referral, right? Oh, bring Kevin in. Kid you not, Edgar, there was a pile of letters, envelopes, postcards. Hey, I'll buy your house. I'll buy your house. I'll buy your house. All sitting there. And I was in the house and they weren't because of the relationship. So they were doing the right thing, right? Taking an action, sending out letters and doing all those things. But it was me in the house that ended up buying it, even though all that marketing was sitting there. So it's like, there is a balance of that. And now that more people are learning how to send emails or make those, ringless voicemails or, send a letter. Well, what's even more powerful? Because that becomes, once it becomes normalized, it becomes white noise. What doesn't go away? Man, when something is hard, what do? Man, who do you know? Who do you know? Okay, I'll give that guy a call. And that's kind of what the part we focus on. So becoming a friend, I guess, in real estate.
Yep. And being a connector in your own way.
So have you ever read Malcolm Gladwell?
No.
He might be my most favorite author. when you talk books and stuff, you almost have to take like God out of it. Like I read the Bible. I don't know where you stand on things, but it's like, hey, I read the Bible. Proverbs I think is amazing. Everybody should do that. Think about it. There's 31. There's a proverb every day. Like talk about a great way to start the morning. It's almost there's a whole bunch of Stoics coming. Have you noticed this? Stoicism is hitting real estate investors now. Anyway, that's a tangent right there. But Proverbs is fantastic because it's like practical knowledge for entrepreneurs and leaders, right? It's like, hey, don't do this, do this. It's like, okay, good advice, thanks. Besides God as an author, Malcolm Gladwell might be my most favorite author. My favorite book there is David and Goliath. But I've just read Tipping Points, which was his first book. So how do you make an epidemic for social change, right? Or, any epidemic. So not in a virus, like killing, sickness type way, but in a like good and positive way. And he breaks it down at 3 different characters, right? You have your connectors. So that would be you and I, right? You have your salesmen, so people who are like, yeah, you should use Edgar. He's the, like it's, here they're the ones kind of helping you close. And then you have your mavens. So they said the word maven, and I'm like, do I just not know lingo? Like, do I not know what mavens are? Well, it turns out not a lot of other people know that one too. So I was like, oh, phew, you didn't know it either? Okay. But it's like, those experts who know a lot about a product. So in the book, they talk about consumer reports, or the person who knows like, oh, okay, this model of a car is a good car, and this one, watch out for this or do this, or they're educated and they want to help people make good decisions, right? Well, having one of those people with a connector and having a salesperson, like once you have those 3 types of people in the same direction, that's how some of these epidemics really start spreading. So think about how Pace Morby got to you. Think how, so there was somebody who he had the message, or, he was taught the message, he got it and spread it, and now everybody's jumping in. So now you passing it on, you just became 1 part of the connector, but also 2 part of the salesperson, right? Hey, I'm in his mastermind, I'm in his stuff, and I love it. Well, what did you do? You just sold it to the next person and say, I want to be a part of that. And that's how you get, really what he's done is an epidemic inside the real estate investing world. Because before that, we had Carlton Sheets, and we had some other people doing it, but not on his scale.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of cool. Wasn't expecting that to come out of there.
Maven, I think these days they're called SMEs, subject matter experts.
Ooh, all right. I'll accept that.
Yeah,
that you're flexing your industrial knowledge there.
Yeah, transferable skills. It all connects.
It does.
Yeah, one of the things, just giving a shout out to Pace again, is one thing is he got burned trying to collaborate with somebody. So that's one reason he's put together, not, his classes, his coaching, his community. We just recently had the Creative National Tour in Houston, and we had 1,000 people show up for it. And it was just amazing energy. Squad Up Summit's going to come out this year. It will be in March. Usually it's between March and April every year. This is the 3rd one they're having. This one's in Denver, Colorado. It'll be 2,000-3,000 people in real estate. And the energy is just fantastic. You're going to go with 3 hours of sleep, but you're not going to be bothered because all the energy when you walk into those rooms and those hallways and talking to everybody that's there to be go-givers the way he's, really pushed and encouraged people to be. It's just amazing.
Good. Well, that's a good book there, The Go-Giver.
Yeah, he read it and he talks about it. I have it on my list. I got to catch up on some reading.
Man, chop. Do you listen to books?
Yeah, I listen to them as well. But now that I've been working a lot more from home and not driving as much, I've started to read them right before I go to bed. And I've been bad about doing that recently. But yeah, I do have them ready to go.
Like when you're folding clothes, when you're doing like whatever odd job you do around the house or whatever, like, dude, put on that book, have a good time.
Yeah, so. For sure. Let's go back a little bit to before Restore in St. Louis. Where did you start? What pushed you to get into real estate?
So I'm an engineer by schooling, right? Because I did the American dream. You go to school, get a good job, work your ass off all your life, retire when you're 65. Like that was what we were told. This is how it's done. mainly because that's how they did it, and turns out it didn't really work for me. I was, the square peg trying to fit in a round hole. Like it just didn't fit. Um, and I had an engineering job, and it was during the era that people were developing large neighborhoods here in St. Louis, right? There were doers, right? And I was watching paper go from the left of my desk to the right of my desk, and I was watching doers do, and it just drove me nuts. And that's kind of where I quit my job. I moved to North Carolina. I told my then girlfriend, "Hey, if you come with me, I'll probably marry you. If not, I'll see you later." Right? Super nice guy. She did come, and we did get married. So that's a fun story, right? But that's where I just happened to fall into it, and I talk about this in my podcast and the book we're writing too. Um, Crazy adventures in North Carolina, right? But that's also where I started getting into the investment side. I teamed up. My first real mentor taught me life and business, and also how to, do the investing side of it. Then my second coach came in and actually taught me the construction, because I thought I needed to know all of the trades to become a flipper. So I taught myself construction. When we came back to St. Louis, I was a general contractor. Then I got into sales, and then a project manager. And I I understand construction pretty well from all angles now. Um, when I got into flipping, I was doing the wholesaling, right? Because I didn't understand all the how to use private lenders or subject tos. Like that wasn't something that was there. But I got into I call it building a life roadmap. But I was a general contractor and jumping to my 3.0 self, which was I wanted to be a full-time real estate investor. So, like right now, you're kind of bridging the gap. So my Kevin 0.0 at that time was I'm paying myself here and there, right? I was not a consistent business owner as a GC. My 1.0 self, I'll be I'll be able to pay myself so much. I'll be able to be, it's my business running better. My 2.0 self, I'm doing that, making money. I got some crews so I could step off a little bit. I'll get into wholesaling. And 3.0 is, hey, I'm full-time real estate, right? I kind of made my roadmap. Did it work out exactly like my plan? No, but it happened, right? So I was out there, and primarily I was wholesaling, but then I would buy a house every so often, and I would swing the hammer, and I'd keep doing this. And I don't know how you started here, but first my marketing budget was $100, and then $500, and then 1,000, and then 2,000, and 5,000, and then 10,000. I got to a point where I finally was making it, right? I was making, my marketing budget, I think got up to like $20,000 a month. I got into pay-per-clicks and different, and I was working on rehabs, and I was just like, yes, I made it. My website went live, like I had the business card. I looked awesome. And then my dad got pancreatic cancer. And, they said, hey, why don't you say goodbyes? And, you probably have a few months, and, peace out. He ended up living for 2 years. He actually beat pancreatic cancer, which doesn't happen. Yeah, clap. Yesterday was his birthday, but he will have gone to about 10 years now. But then when he did pass, it really, like, I didn't know I just lost my best friend, right? My business just fell apart, and I was emotionally ruined. I was a mess, but nobody was there. It was Kevin. I was doing everything, right? I wasn't successful swinging a hammer. I wasn't successful with the marketing because, you wait so long to get the phone to ring. You finally get it to ring, and then I didn't want to pick it up because I didn't have any more energy to give. And it doesn't take long for that to destroy your business. Everything I worked so hard to get to just melted away. Nobody even told me to turn off the marketing. Like it just was something that obviously we see it now. It's like, dude, shut it off or give it to somebody else to run. And, I was lost. I kind of was broken. A couple years go by, I team up with a group, and if one house I was doing is good, I was doing 10 houses. I told you I had like 3 crews, office manager, project manager. I started doing all the things, but I found I made a job that I didn't want. I was more behind the computer, doing all the paperwork instead of actually out doing the stuff that I love. I wasn't the agent for change. I was the person in the back doing clerical stuff. And it's like, man, that's not really what I care for. And that's really where I got into the coaching and speaking side of the industry, right? There's a huge world there. And then I split with that group, and I felt like I lost my identity, and then we bought a live event company because we were going to go out, be our own RIA, and do all this stuff, right? And then what hits? COVID. And so I was like, oh my gosh, all of that shut down, and basically we had to, in a sense, wait it out, which kind of sucks. A couple of houses fell in my lap, and I went back, swung a hammer. I had subs and stuff like that. I started working with the people, and I loved it. And it's like that idea, and that's where this bringing the team together again. So many people want to work with people they know, like, and trust. Why don't we just give them a safe sandbox to operate in? I have lots of students and people I've trained over the years. I've run live events and all this stuff. I like it. I get to work with my friends now. Actually, my son, who's 18, is now one of my interns. So after we're done here, we're going to go out and check in on a couple of our properties, and we'll bring him in. I have a tenant. I'm just going to paint her house. She's on a little a breathing apparatus. So and I was like, oh man, can I just beautify your space a little bit? Like, she didn't ask for it. It was just like, hey, how can I do this for you? And then I get to teach my son some of the skills. Like, hey, this is how you hold a paintbrush. This is how you set up a project. I mean, just passing on that information, one, makes me feel amazing, but it also is like, now I'm making a leader, so when we bring in other people, I'm like, okay, Alex, you teach this guy how to do this stuff. Now he has to not only do it, but he has to teach the next person how to do it. Because then, dude, once you start teaching someone, then you really start mastering the process, right? Because you have to, in your own words or in your own way, show them. So I would say, like you, Edgar, I used to be very much the micromanager, like way down to the details. Like when I was a GC, everything had to be perfect. When you do that, sometimes your profit margins go down a lot more, because I was trying to help people. And then when I was trying to give them like 110% job, but I'm bidding it out at C grade, that's a large spread. It was also through the recession and stuff like that. So a lot of people that, just didn't have the money to do some of the jobs. So you get to find out that the other parts of how this all works. So
very insightful perspective. Yeah, so true about learning something and then training somebody or teaching somebody else to do it. That's the best way to retain it, best way to master it, become that crazy that your life changed. Not your life changed, but basically your world stopped because that one person was so important to you and you hadn't yet built a team to do all that. And because your mind's so focused on that, you're not worried about your marketing continue to go and drain your bank account and not picking up the phone call that's going to help refill your bank account. So if you're people listening, if you're out there, you're successful and you have somebody that very important, it doesn't matter what time of their life they're in. They don't have to be old. They don't have to have cancer. It could be somebody just in their car at a stoplight, somebody not paying attention, hitting them. So you need to put those, get that team together to be able to help you out with that, because your world could easily change. Just your mindset will change, and that's so impactful there. Thank you for sharing that. That could be help to somebody that doesn't know they need that today.
If I could even add another one on that one. So the live component, I think, is so important. So in our podcast and really in my life, there's three main tenets we have. The most important real estate is between your ears. Your personal drives your professional, and it's all about relationships. Those are the three pillars. Like, that's really what it breaks down to. In our podcast, if you listen to the first five, because I do like life retreats or like life seminars and stuff like that over the weekend. But there's a couple exercises I run. One is the snapshot. So there's three main relationships in your life, right? So relationship with yourself, relationship with others, and relationship with things. If you go to Kevin Dairaghi /tools, it's a free assessment you could take, but just where are you in your life, right? So have you heard of things like the balance wheel or life balance and all these terms? Sure you have. Okay. Well, there's different parts of your life. So let's just take a relationship with yourself. So you have your physical body. So, if you want to improve that, what kind of exercise are you doing? What kind of diet are you doing? Like, this is the vehicle that we physically have, right? We have a relationship with our brain. So that's like our intelligence, right? So, like, there, if you want to improve that, obviously listen to your podcast. That's one easy plug right there for you. But two, like reading books, like how are you making your your head better? How are you growing those connections? Are you learning math? Like, okay, 4 times 4 is this, 4 times 5 is this. Like, learning the ruler, I think, is a big deal. Learning how to measure, just little things, right? Your heart, so your emotions. In kindergarten, they talk about. Do you have any kids, Edgar? Okay, so I have 3 boys. Now we're getting older, but we did have a kindergarten time. But they had like a bucket filler. I think it's actually a book, being a bucket filler. But when I give you compliments or when I say good things to you, I am filling your bucket. If I come in and say, hey Kevin, you know, you're fat, you're this, your beard sucks, right? Well, you're taking stuff out of my bucket. Like you're making me feel worse. We want to live abundantly, right? Well, not only with our emotions and our money and our time, but you do that by filling up buckets, and so like emotionally, how are we filling other people's buckets? How are we making sure ours is filled? If you use Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, his step 7 is sharpen the saw, which is very much like, hey, I need to take this time for me, like going to a retreat, going camping, taking some me time to make sure that I show up good for other people, right? How can you fill up your bucket? And then the fourth one in that area is character, right? So do you honor your word? Do you have values? Do you live by a set of rules that, hey, these are my standards. I don't compromise on my standards. Like, I won't lie to an inspector just to get me to work better. Like, it's a principle. I'm not going to do that, right? So it's just one of those like, hey, this is what I do, or that's not acceptable. If I sign my name on that, now I'm saying this is true and it's not. Like, I don't want to live in a dishonest conjunction there. So anyway, that's roughly where it is. There's the other relationships as well. There's a free assessment there, but once you see this, your wheels, never are you going to have a perfect wheel, right? There's always going to be a push and pull in a season of life, and there are sprints. But once you understand this, you could go by and look at these snapshots, right? Just like the Polaroid, take it shake it like a Polaroid picture, right? Shake it. But then you could kind of say, okay, oh, this was this period of my life. This is this period of my life. But it's also a season. This too shall pass, and the next one will come in, and you get to enjoy the journey a little bit more that way. Because it's like, okay, I can be here now because I did that time there. Don't compare your snapshots to other people, because it's easy to say, oh, I want to be like that, or I want to have a cool hat like Edgar. I don't fit well with hats, so I don't wear them, so it's just one of those, we're all dealt different hands, just how we use them.
You got great hair. You got great hair though. You don't need hats. I don't take the time to fix mine, but no, super helpful if you could. Yeah, more people thought that bucket filler mentality, there's abundance. Too many people think that if I give this, I'm going to lose it. But I'd like to tell people the candle mythology. If you have a candle and you use another candle to light it, does that candle, the first candle's flame, go away? Does it get smaller? No, it brightens the whole room even more. So be the candle. And yeah, you're not going to change the world. But again, as we mentioned, you help change that one person's world by giving a compliment. You can help expand it and spread it out to others. Amazing information there.
And then that's where Malcolm Gladwell's like the tipping point comes in. It's like, what if more people are sharing the love, right? What if more people are holding the door open or saying please or thank you or Mr. Edgar, like this wave of goodness in manners and morale. Like, man, what a cool place. it really does, maybe there is a revolution of goodness that's coming, and maybe we could be some of the people that are opening the door for it.
100%. Doesn't stop. It doesn't cost us anything to do it.
That's right.
And if it just helps make things better, why not do it?
Agreed.
Let's improve your sleep, not by buying a new mattress or by changing your sleep time, your sleep hours, or how much sleep you're getting. As an entrepreneur, we know that you're not going to get more sleep most of the time. Check out 8 Sleep, the pod. It's a sheet that goes around your mattress, has these tubes where water runs through, and it'll adjust your temperature based on your preference. So you'll stay consistent temperature all night, and it'll adjust through the algorithm your consistent temperature. Sleep deeper at night, sleep better. My version I got was with the adjustable base. So when I'm snoring, it helps adjust it and reduce the snore, which is very good for myself to sleep longer. I toss and turn less, and my wife likes it too. Happy wife, happy life. Back to the episode. Going back a little bit to your first deals in construction and fix and flip. Do you have any, there's something that your first couple of deals taught you that you still use today?
So the first deal I actually, I had 2 deals that happened around the same time. So I think the first one I actually had under contract, closed after the other one. But my first deal was in a floodplain, and it was a meth house. So the house was cleaned out, it was trashed, and the owners actually were chewing on the outlets, on the outside of the outlets. Like the cover was off, and you could see human chew marks, not dogs, and it was just like, and it was on all of them. It's just like, what was going on here? Okay, so be it. The other one, the first one I got paid on, I actually sold it to a group of 3 people, who actually ended up buying it and rehabbing, etc. It was on Grace Avenue. But it turns out one of those guys ended up being one of my future partners. We ended up owning a bunch of rentals and all this other stuff together. But that was his first deal he ever bought, which was my first wholesale deal that I ever got paid on. I didn't know it until we kind of unpacked who all the people were in that situation. I was like, oh, that was your first? That was my first. And then we always liked each other. We're talking literally 15 years later. We figured out that was his first deal, my first deal, and now we did own several deals together. So it's just kind of fun to see how sometimes just staying in the game long enough, you're going to reap seeds you planted early will come back. So kind of cool.
Awesome. Yeah, my first wholesale deal I did with another person that did their first wholesale deal, which we didn't know till after it had closed.
Well, and you could sometimes tell how people are handling it. Like, are they asking anxious or nervous questions? Or they, just, so that's where I've noticed when you slow down, like it's really easy to get all caught up in all the excitement, but it's like, okay, settle the emotions. Like, this isn't our first rodeo anymore. So it's like, I love this one, Edgar. It was one of our pastors talked about it. So we hear it from the Bible. It says, blessed are the peacemakers. So I think of people saying, okay, you guys settle down. Let's come to the table. And like diplomats, right? And I never really cared for that. No offense. I kind of like stirring shit up, not necessarily being the hold up. But the way he likened it to is when you walk in the room, are people glad you're there, and like, are they like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do? And you walk in, and your aura, right, your vibe, what you said earlier, are people more like, okay, Edgar's here, Kevin's here, everything's going to be fine, everything will be better, because your aura, your presence is enough to settle it. And he likened it to blessed be the peacemakers. I'm like, oh, now I like it. Now that means something, so I find it a nice way of making sure that I'm ready, right? My bucket is filled. So when I walk into a house, or because we're usually, us wholesalers, or the people talking to a motivated seller, we're typically in the house on the worst season of their life. Somebody died, somebody's sick, they're going through a massive financial calamity, something bad has happened, which is why we're there. And those are the cases why I use education, not, sleazebag tactics. The end result is about the same, but it's how you feel or how you're treated through the process. And that's where, how can I make sure that I'm there with empathy, helping them and directing them and using education as a tool so they know why they're getting the offers they're getting and they have some ownership of what their next steps are.
So going to the wholesaling fix and flip, what do you think are some of the hidden costs that newbies miss every time?
I don't want this to sound like a cliche there, but thinking they could do it themselves. The cost of a mentor or coach, they're not cheap, but what they could save you is well worth it. Like there's already a path made. Why do you think you don't need it? Just borrow somebody else's shoulders for a minute. Get on top, get a couple under your belt, and then you could look at breaking away or doing the next steps. But you don't know what you don't know. I've noticed when I coach, there's different grades of people, right? So I'm a ready, fire, aim type of guy, right? It's easier for me to start running and then I could figure it out along the way, right? There's other people who are spending so much time setting it up. So everything will be, well, I need to make sure I have this guy. I need to make sure, like, how can I fill up? I was going to call you out, but I was going to let that go. But I want to make sure my Rolodex is filled before I step out. I want to make sure my account has all the numbers for whatever what if scenarios happen before I break out there. And what happens is they get stuck in the exercises of education, right? And they're doing the reps, but they're not doing any of the actual production. They're keeping the dream alive, but they're not doing any forging activities or finishing activities to actually do the deed. So like, I remember the first time I wrote a contract, Edgar, like my pen was shaking, like you couldn't read anything, because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have this kind of money. Well, now it's like, oh yeah, I threw a contract on it. We did this. And getting a contract and knowing how to write, like now I take it for granted, what that tool is. But, when you didn't have that confidence, it was a big freaking deal,
Absolutely.
Oh gosh, I could have made a fortune on those deals, but it was one of those, I didn't have that person going, it's okay. This is how it works. It'll be fine, and now that's why I really just have a heart to some of the people getting started or kind of trying to level up, hey, how do I do the end one type scenario? Are you an agent, Edgar?
No, they got too much red tape for them. I started doing the agent training, and then I was about halfway through it. I was like, they're not learning anything that's really going to help me as an investor.
So I agree to a point with you. So I just became an investor. Was it last year? It could have been a year, maybe a year and a half. I'm no power agent, right? I'm not one of the people buying a billboard with my face on it, like that. That's not really my gig. But now I notice that it really is a tool. Like, hey, investors can do 1, 2, 3 here, right? But then there's a lot of tools that the agent has that could also help that person. And I call it just low-hanging fruit. You're already there making deals with people. Here's another option. Instead of me giving it to somebody else, I can now take it. And then now that becomes a lead gen for the next person. We became Cash Flow Nation. So my buddy David Onanian, we started focusing on investor-minded agents. So if you were an agent, right, this would be the conversation, would be a lot of agents never actually do any of their own deals, like as an investor. We want to educate you to become an investor, right? So how can you build your own retirement as an agent or like a pure agent? There's really no retirement for us. As an investor, what is your retirement? Usually it's rentals, or, once you make some cash, you go into hard money lending or private lending, or, because you understand how these tools work. And that's where it's like, okay, how can we prepare you to be sufficient and truly an expert in real estate? And that's by also using the agent tools, right? But then also building your investor side as well. Uh, so I joined EXP under Dave. And now, like, if you join in my downline, like, I'll give you my life courses, I'll give you my real estate courses. Like, I want to help you become successful. And it's a way that I could check my box of living abundantly here, because the more successful you are in this space, I'll get some kickbacks, right? The residual that come up through the rev share. It's a way that I could be generous, and we're actually looking at opening up new cities like Houston, and we just need some people that kind of want to get infected with this idea. I want to live fulfilled. I want to live bigger, right? But I also want to make sure I'm taken care of as an expert in real estate. And the ways you could do that is building up your own portfolios and kind of living your vision. So I believe in making homeowners, right? So, but I also still have a rental portfolio. It's not one or the other. And now I'm helping some of my other tenants become homeowners, selling my property to them. Again, it's abundance. There's more out there. I'm actually thinking about your sober living. We need more of it.
100%.
I would even expand that even more than sober living, which, just co-living, right? Or room rentals or bed rentals, whatever it like, whether it's a veterans or whether it's, creating a safe place for people to live. Not everybody wants to live alone. Sometimes having that little community, that becomes their purpose. Great. Help them out. You talk about maximizing rentals that come out of a house, whether my kid's going into college. So like making college rentals there, like there's a lot of other things that open up. But you just got to sometimes have eyes to see it, put it together. So if that really is a passion of yours, dude, put some gasoline on that dream,
Definitely. That's what I'm working on. Got 3 properties now that are like co-living in that sense, and definitely looking to help out so many more people with it. There's not just sober living, there's veterans, college students, people in their golden ages. And it's great to be able to have so many different people that have different experiences, so you can just, talk to them, learn their experiences, and hopefully help guide you in the right way. Earlier, you mentioned mentorship as well. It doesn't have to be a paid mentorship for doing your first deal. There's so many that are offering free stuff. You, Kevin, have your tools that you're giving away for free on your website as well. I give stuff at my podcast for free. The community, there's so many go-givers. Just got to go out there, you got to be resourceful if you're listening. Be resourceful, because if you're not, then you're not going to get the help. If you're just asking me, show me this, hold my hand, that's not going to get you the help. You got to be resourceful in order to get the help.
Dude, you nailed that one. So how many people, like, you talked about that guy running up and hugging you. Oh my gosh, I know you, right? There is a lot of people. It's a one-way relationship, right? They hear us talk all the time, but we don't necessarily know them back unless they kind of talk to us, right? But with that, there is a sense of when somebody comes and says, hey, can you give me, can you give me, can you give me, right? We're big-hearted people, right? I used to give everything to those people. And guess what? How many people actually used it and moved forward? They didn't, because there was no value to it. Now, the people who came in and said, hey, I could give you this, right? If there was a monetary thing and they didn't have it, right? They would come up with a way, how can I give value to you? What can I do? Those people did make it, right? Because they were being resourceful. They're figuring out how to make it happen. They weren't just looking for the handout. They weren't the guy on the street corner going, give me a handout. They're the people who were moving. And then it's like, man, how can I bless that guy? How can I go and help this person? Because they understand what hard work is. And instead of a handout, because people don't want charity. They want to have a partner. They want somebody to run the race with them. And those people have become more successful, in my opinion.
Part of the Dream Start On podcast is to start. And if you haven't started by getting your LLC, or if you need another LLC, use the link below to get with PCS, Prime Corporate Services, and they'll give you a consultation to walk you through getting your LLC. You can do it yourself, but they're going to walk you through it. They're not going to charge you extra than what you would pay doing it yourself. And they know how to set up the LLC appropriately to be protected, to get your operating agreement, and to make sure that you're coded correctly for the most business funding. Why do you want business funding? Because it doesn't affect your personal credit as much, and you can get so much more to help you scale faster, move faster, and grow faster. So use the link below to get your LLC set up with Prime Corporate Services. Now back to the episode. Yeah, well said. That's the biggest thing. So a lot of listeners hear cash for houses and instantly think scamming. You lean into doing it with dignity. Talk a little bit about that.
And that's where, so at the end of the day, the process is about the same, right? It's still an offer. We're still buying below market value, but it's how you use the tools. And that's where education for me is the tool. I'm going to show you what your options are and which one is best for you, and give them the give them the power, right? These are the worst days that they're going through. How can I give them a choice where they feel like they have part of the decision-making process? Hey, you could go with A, you could go with B, you could go with C. You could do all those with me. Which one fits your criteria? And then I could help you do it. And to me, that's just put me in front of more people. Like, let me help do that process. Will they all go with me? Nope. But I am planting good seeds, because usually it's with them and, 5 family members or a couple friends, a neighbor, like one person there will take that ripple effect and pass it on. Do they always appreciate the news? No, but they also see, now they understand why the offer is what it is, and they can choose it, or they could choose the other one that's best for them.
Great. So you're offering options and not just making them feel pressured. What are the most common situations you're helping people out of?
For me, it's probably more of the probate. Like the estate, somebody died, we need to make a decision with a house. So there's a lot of contents, there's a lot of sentimental value. In general, my take there is take anything you think of value, take anything that has sentimental value or price value. Like, take that stuff, but anything else that's just a burden to you, I got it. Like, I'll take care of it. So we work with people, I call them pluckers. So they'll come in and they'll take items and they'll turn around and sell it, and we'll get splits, or they'll buy it from me. I do a bunch of donations. So we have there's about 3 main areas that we go. We have some veteran places that we give a bunch of stuff to. We have a Oasis international ministry here, which goes stuff for the like immigrant families in St. Louis. And there's some other, it's like, okay, what do you want? What can I give you? How can I make my baggage, my trash, into a treasure that could help? How can I make this trash into a blessing for you or somebody? Furniture, beds. Beds is one of those. We don't do too much bed flipping. Bed frames, yes, but it's just one of those, like, hey, with some of these immigrant families coming in, they're like, Kevin, we'll take anything. Right now, they're sleeping on freaking towels on the ground. It's like, okay, like, I know my trash is better than a couple ratty towels that, how can I help that situation? And then we recycle a bunch, so instead of just throwing it in a landfill, hey, what can we reuse? So whether I'm giving it away, whether we're recycling it, how can I make even that part of it into a blessing for somebody else?
Yeah,
right?
incredible.
We live abundantly.
Definitely. And a lot of people look at their thing as trash when somebody else would be so fortunate to be able to even have that, even if it's temporary. They're not going to keep it for life. It's not like you're giving it to them for a wedding gift or something like that. It's something that they need.
If you do, keep it on the down low. Well, like books, you donate books. I don't know how you guys operate in Houston, but we'll have little book donation places. I hate throwing away good books. It's like, I'll let somebody else make that decision if this is worthy of keeping or not. But it's just one of those, like, I don't want to make that decision. I'll let somebody else do it. And I have a family of readers, right? So if I find a good book or a good little trinket, I'll pass it on. Everybody gets their own like little house presents. It's just a fun way of, hey, I saw this, thought of you. But man, I do keep extension cords. I do keep surge protectors. Like there's a few things that I'm like, you can never have too many of these. So.
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah,
other one is
wonderful with the
hatchets.
books.
I don't know about you, but hatchets and some of the shovels so you could throw it in the backyard. Just we got boys. Yeah.
In Texas, we got too much concrete for hatchets. In Houston, anyways. So, yeah, no, books is great. I've actually been moving some books to my sober living houses just so they can have that and read that and have that mindset change to help them improve their lives.
I love it. Yeah, because that's step one, right? It all starts with that dream. It all starts with mindset. Henry Ford's
100%.
quote, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get them into
Wraps
that
up
can
so much right
mentality. When people know that you're wholesaling and they say you're taking advantage of them, how do you respond to that?
I don't really come across that anymore. I was more concerned about that early on until I had my first truly motivated seller. And I don't think you don't do this part of the marketing, right? But when people like you feel the burden you took off that person, and it's just like, this is killing this person. They don't care at a certain point how much you're making or what happens. They just want the knife out of their back. They're dying here, and everybody's, those other people don't understand the situation that that person's in. That's where it's up to us to make sure that you give them dignity, right? Just because you can go down another $1,000 doesn't necessarily mean you should. Sometimes I liken it to they're happy with a certain number. Well, I'll give them a little bit more. So it's almost like a tip. Hey, all right, waiter, waitress, here's a couple more bucks. Thanks for the deal, or something like that, where put me in a situation to be generous. But you could also become generous after you set the parameters of a certain number, and then you could come up and kind of give a couple more. And I think that's where it comes down to ethics and morals, and because that person is going to go tell 10 of their friends. How do you want that referral to go?
Yeah, definitely. If there's room to be generous, then why not? Fill in other people's buckets. Don't have your bucket overfill. I love it. Back to fix and flip in a little bit. If people want to grow, but capital can become the biggest bottleneck or the biggest risk, how did you fund your deals early compared to now?
So early it was partners. So I would do a partner with you because, I actually have this assessment too. Kevin Dairaghi /tools. We do a snapshot for becoming a real estate investor, basically getting into real estate, and it's three main areas, right? So you have money or finances or that situation. There's 5 questions there. You have knowledge, and you also have network. And you look at that and you say, okay, what piece do I have to bring to the table? In my case, I knew construction, right? I knew how to do that. So I teamed up with somebody with money and an agent, and I got into some of the flips, right? So I was able to lean on those worlds and how they were structuring the deals. So I would partner with you because I knew you could close the deal, or you had somebody that could close the deal. I would bring in my part, so I did my part, you guys did yours, we'd split the proceeds. And then I learned the secret, private lenders, the way that you could structure money coming in, give them a first position on a real estate, contracts and a different way it worked. And now I could continue to grow and build. We're actually in a private lending season right now, because we're going from our onesie twosie that we've been doing, and now we're looking at turning 8 to 10 a month. Just means we need more cash to come in and do it. And then if because now we could self fund through different lines of credit or stuff that we have, but just because you can, it's still, there's only so much you could do. And that's where it's like, okay, I need to make sure I use my reserves effectively. So how can I raise more money to be able to do more deals? And it's just, then you could just do more, because they don't have the rules. I mean, hard money is still cheaper than a partner, but if you don't have the credit or you don't have the reserves to get hard money lenders, it's still not as effective for you. And that's where you got to get some proof of concept. That's where having a mentor or coach or a partner will help you start. I'm not saying a partner like long term, like I would say start, you partner on a deal, not necessarily, hey, forever and ever. You could partner on some deals until you could stand on your own, you have proof of concepts, and then you could go out and start raising your own money to be able to do your own flips.
Yeah, private money is so powerful. A little bit more flexibility, and for people that want to get into it, that haven't gotten into it, if they have money sitting in a 401k, self-directed IRA, they're going to most likely get more money through a real estate investment than they will through the stock market. This is for education purposes, not financial advice. Consult with your CPA, your financial advisor. But there's always a way to get burned. But if you're doing your due diligence and looking and checking out people that have been doing this for a while and seeing that they're being successful, then you have a good chance of having your money taken care of.
Now you have that little, the more you know, little star just going across.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Yeah.
When you're looking at properties, what makes you decide if you're going to keep it as a flip, a rental, a hotel, or versus selling it straight out?
So some of the cool stuff that my team is building out now is we have some quick reads. Like it'll read the comps, it'll read the pictures on the emails that are sent from other wholesalers or whatever, and it'll kind of break down, hey, this might be the best for this, this, or this. So that gives you like the analytical look at it. But I hate to say it, but it's a vibe check. You walk into a house or a neighborhood and you're like, we need to make this one a homeowner. Like this is what it should be. Again, that's me. There's other ones where it's like, okay, they're not quite ready yet. Like, let me do XYZ. I'm open to a lease option. I really want any of the things I own. If somebody wants to buy it, I want to be prepared to say, okay, like it's not, I never want to have the me, because then you're stopping the flow, you're stopping the blessing train. Because you ever play like Pass the Trash or any of those games? If you start just picking up everything, you can't actually function as well. You got to just let the cards, let the houses flow through, and you pick the ones that you need. So I don't know if that's how you want to hear it, but
yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, talking about vibing, somebody will hear it and they'll understand it, vibe with them better, and they'll reach out to you and your website and get your tools and connect with you. What is one of the most expensive mistakes that you've done in flipping or just in the house real estate in general, and what did it teach you?
Boy, most expensive mistake. I mean, we dropped slabs of granite. I've painted the house the wrong color of blue. I mean, you know what I mean? And then it was like cold, so we couldn't repaint it. We ended up losing like 20 or 30,000 on that one. I bought a log cabin. Oh, here's fun. I bought a log cabin, and I've also bought a church and sold a church. Oh, geez, you don't have time for these stories, do you? Oh, how much time you got?
We're gonna have to do a part 2.
I'm like, man, I've had contractors point guns at me. Like,
oh, wow.
It's just, but when you're living with purpose, you sometimes have this aura around you where it's like, I remember I used to look at bank houses, like foreclosure in the deep city here. And it was a hoarder house. So I would walk across it. I actually stepped on a dude sleeping in there. And it was like, we both did that. Like, oh, like he walked away. I backed away. I don't know how you operate, but like, I don't carry a firearm because I'm afraid I'll use it. In that case, if I had it, I would have pulled it. It's something that, sometimes I understand where you're at, but it is one of those like, hey, I don't want to have that on my conscience. But you also need to be prepared. So it really is that dichotomy. Most expensive mistake. It's funny. I go through a season of saying yes more. Like, okay, I need to go. I need to go do this more. Like, and where you stretch your boundaries, you grow a lot. But then what also happens is the more you commit to stuff, then you can't be open to other things that open up. So now I'm going through a season of saying no. And then people just assume I'm not going to do it, but they'll still invite me. But it's like, okay, now I need to say yes to a few more things. So probably the most expensive one is probably a deal I didn't do. But I've had some crazy, interesting stories. That church I bought got burned down in Ferguson during the Michael Brown riots. So there's a whole world there that I could talk about. Man, it's stuff that you don't know until you get into the game. And people who are stuck trying to figure out all these title concerns and issues, like, you won't know until you get into it. So,
yeah, no, well said. There's
put the right people around.
You've been doing a lot of good things. You've been doing a lot of things in general, making progress, and you have those great stories to share. And if you're listening out there, you got to go do stuff to have cool stories.
Yeah. Remember that one time I sat on the couch? Yeah. No story started with
cool story.
Then
bro.
I had a salad. Yeah.
What do you think is one habit that makes you money?
So I started this thing this year called Winning the Day. And again, I don't know how you operate on this, but when you're a full-time entrepreneur, there are zero parameters. Like, there's no start or stop of my day. There's none of this stuff. But if I can be a good steward of me and my time, especially in the morning, like I call it winning the day, right? So I do my affirmations. I'm a leader. I make a difference. I add value, like that. I go through that whole conversation. I do 2 phone calls a day to my friends, family, whoever. That's it. 2 phone calls, outbound calls. How are you? I'm not following a script. I'm not going like, hey, Edgar, if you were going to buy or sell a house, I'm not doing that. A lot of agency people push you into like, if you're going to be buying or selling a house, you're going to be using me. Like, no. I call and I ask how you're doing. I make the conversation about you and how I could help serve you, right? Go giver, people first, that whole mentality. How can I be a servant? How can I serve you? And what is a byproduct? People come back and give us stuff. Shocker, right? Plant good seeds. Because it usually comes back with, oh, my neighbor just said, oh, maybe, like they turn around and the law of reciprocity, right? It's what they give you back. So that's another one. I just happen to have it here because I was working on it. I write 2 letters a day. Like and I mail them, right? Like, again, these are not crazy metrics, but it's like, if I'm doing these things, and there's a handful of other ones, like I do some exercises, I do certain, it's like, if I am doing these activities, I'm successful. I won the day. And then what do I need to do to win the week? What do I need to do to win the month? And what do I need to do to win the quarter? So like the end of this month, January, my book that I'm writing, I'll be done with my draft. Like, that is my goal. So it's like, okay, the next part is I'm collaborating. So I'm bringing other people in, but it's like, I will be done by this date. Okay. So now I could work towards it with all the stuff that I've done.
Fascinating. Yeah, we had a 990 challenge doing what you're talking about, calling people up and just having conversations, not trying to sell anything, doing your affirmations or just being grateful in general. Just those little habits will help you just have a better life in general. So option here, best advice you've received or advice you'd like to give somebody that's getting started in this path.
So the quote that I use, so I was raised by my parents, and my dad used the quote, if you could dream it, you could do it, right? And I've always loved that one. It's Walt Disney, and it was just one of those, I didn't know it was Walt Disney until actually after he died. I looked it up. I'm like, oh, son of a God, that wasn't even his. So I was like, okay, but it meant something to me, right? Because I'm more of the dreamer type, right? I have the visionary, I have more of the passion for some of this stuff. And what I've done is like what it talked about, like winning the day, right? Dream big, but act accordingly. Okay, if you do want to make an impact, what can I do? I could get on Edgar the Connector's podcast, right? I could finish my book because an unfinished book doesn't help anybody, right? Finishing bridges. What can I do to help get this message that we do need to care? We do need to say please and thank you. We need to do the right thing and make that just common practice. Do I get burned? Do people take advantage of things? Absolutely. But after a while, you start having a sniff test for it, where you're just like, you know what? I know I could make a lot of money here, but I just don't, I feel dirty. I feel dirty walking into this house. I don't want this one, and it's one of those trust your gut, intuition, whatever it is. But, and then I find the right people show up. And I don't know if you've had this one yet, but I've had some private lenders call me and they're like, hey, do you ever take money and buy houses with it? It's like, yeah. All right, I have some. You want it? It's like, oh my gosh. Well, do you want to know about the house? No, man, here you go. I was just like, thanks. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great feeling when that happens. I've had it happen. Dude, invaluable perspective there. Kevin, thank you for coming on. If you want to hear more about Kevin, check out his podcast as well. Kevin, I think I'm going to mess up your last name, Dairaghi.
Yeah.
Kevin Dairaghi show.
Yeah.
Hey, for those listening, if you got value, please share this with somebody who's trying to dream, start, and own. Subscribe, drop a comment, give us a like. Doesn't cost you anything. It's free to subscribe. Send it to a friend. And if you're a new investor listening to Kevin's underwriting and rehab systems, take notes. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode.
Dude, Edgar, thanks for having me, man. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Be sure to catch this other episode to start your dreams and own your time like these other guests have.